September 17th, 2021, southwest Costilla County, Colorado by the Lobato Bridge. It's about noon or mid-afternoon and I'm out walking my dogs. You got Tim, you got Yida, you got a pregnant tiger, Chumba, Mufasa, at the back end of my 5-acre plot due to the non-stop harassment by my stalker or stalkers. I'd given up taking my daily dog walk on the public dirt road, so I set upon walking my dogs in the middle of a random unoccupied field back behind my land. It was adjacent to my property. It was attached to no roads, so therefore I thought it was bothering nobody. I thought it was safer. Now you had a white male who later I learned was Kelly Canty, who's driving a big rig, some flatbed tow truck. There's a big piece of metal on the back of it. Not for sure if it's some sort of chimney or... But Kelly Canty, apparently he's delivering this big piece of metal to a person named Robert Pickerell, who's also a white male in his 40s and his 50s. Robert Pickerell, he moved in there about 8 months after I had moved in there. He lives on Delaware Trail, the same road that I live on, but he lived on the other side of Seminole Trail. Kelly Canty had to turn left at Delaware Trail when he, should have turned right. He should have turned right, but instead he's going to turn left. I don't know if he's just bad at following directions, or maybe Robert Pickerell gives terrible directions, or maybe Kelly Canty is just pretending to be lost. So Robert Pickerell, he lives 3 plats west of me. That's about 1,000 feet. You have one plat, and then Seminole Trail, and then another plat, and then Robert Pickerell. So 3 plats west of me, about 1,000 feet or so. Robert Pickerell, he buys water illegally from Troy and Kevin Zinn and company. Robert Pickerell, he had been involved in a drive-by shooting against me as a passenger to the truck. Robert Pickerell would spotlight my dogs in the middle of the night to get them to bark for fun. Robert Pickerell, from the time that he moved in there from June 2020 to at least September 17, 2021, was never in compliance with planning and zoning. Kelly Canty's flatbed tow truck was loud and obnoxious and old and oily. It didn't sound legal. It was jarring. I'm out in the back corner of my property, and he pulls up. I don't know if Kelly Canty had ripped the muffler off his flatbed tow truck, or maybe not. I don't know what was going on. But it was loud and obnoxious, and it's old and oily, and Kelly Canty is driving super slow. Not told, he just made a turn, right? He just turned left. He's driving like 3, 4, 5 miles per hour or so. He's looking at me. It looks like he's trying to say something to me. I'm not having it. It's clear that I didn't want to talk to him, and once he saw that I didn't want to talk to him, he should have just left. But Kelly Canty, he did not leave. He just played games. Kelly Canty was playing games while driving this huge machine, which I think you can argue that a vehicle is a deadly weapon. Thinking Kelly Canty came there to harass me, I yelled at Kelly Canty to get the fuck out of here, and other commands for him to drive away and to quit harassing me. I'm pointing towards the Sangre de Cristo Mountains in the east. I'm at my own house. I'm walking my dogs. He's messing with me, and I'm telling him to get the fuck out of here. And I said it several times in very certain terms. If you look at the continuum of force, commands are the first step. Well, sometimes they say the officer's presence. And then it's hands, and then weapons, and then lethal force. But commands are either the first or the second step to the continuum of force. So Kelly Canty, he jerked the steering wheel towards me. That's the first thing that he did. I say, get the fuck out of here. He's laughing at me. He jerks the steering wheel towards me. When he jerks the steering wheel towards me, the whole flatbed tow truck jerks towards me. And what's he insinuating? Well, I'm going to drive up there and do something. Yeah, Kelly Canty was insinuating he was going to drive up onto the sagebrush-covered plains towards me or my puppies, or my house, or land, my home front. Kelly Canty was laughing. He could see the chaos he was creating. He loved it. The whole experience was a big old hoot to him. He jerked his wheel towards me, and then he slows down even more. He was only going 3, 4, 5 miles per hour to begin with, and then he slows down to 1 mile per hour, 1/2 a mile per hour. Why'd he do that? To match me in the pace of me and my dogs? Like his intent was to provoke me and or my dogs and to get them to come out to the road so he can run them over as has happened before with the friends of Robert Pickerell. So Kelly Canty just kept on driving ahead. If Kelly Canty would have just kept on driving ahead, he didn't slow down, he didn't jerk his wheel, my dog's attention would have waned and we would have gone back to walking in the middle of the field, of our middle of the field trail as we intended to do. Instead, what actually did happen, Kelly Canty got my dog's attention. He got my dog's attention. They're like, what's this about? What is this about? This is interesting. It's loud. It's obnoxious. They started to make their way towards the flatbed truck. So I had to win my dog's attention back. I started a brisk jog. I started a brisk jog, and slowly but surely, the harasser driving the loud and obnoxious and old and oily flatbed tow truck drives away eastward towards Jacqueline Mitchell's house. Jacqueline Mitchell, she goes by the nickname Jinx. So I continue my jog. I'm yelling at my dogs to get into the house, and once they're safely put away in the house, I get my shotgun, then I walk back outside. Then I'm standing in my backyard. My house is located in the center of the 5-acre plot, so the center point of the house is 325 feet away from the county dirt road. I got my shotgun in my right hand, my finger's off the trigger, it's pointed down towards the ground. And I was going to see what this hooligan who was harassing me, which is a crime and misdemeanor, was going to do next. I was going to see what Kelly Canty is going to do next. Kelly Canty drives down Delaware. He stops at Jinx's house. Now, Jinx's house is farther away than Robert Pickerell's house. He's 3 plots over to the west on Delaware Trail, which is about 1,000 feet away. Now, Jinx, her house is like 10 plots over to the east on Delaware Trail. She's on the opposite side of the street, but on the same country block. She's about 3,500 feet away. I could see Jinx's house from the east side of my land. Now, Tecumseh's murderer had pulled into Jinx's driveway. Kelly Canty didn't do that. That's the only difference in the driving styles between the felon that killed my puppy. Tecumseh drove over him and killed him. Kelly Canty was driving just like him. Driving slow, driving provoking. Now, Kelly Canty didn't actually pull into Jinx's driveway, pull back out and come back. He just sits there at the end of Jinx's driveway for a moment or two, or a minute or two. And he stayed on the dirt road outside of Jinx's house and then continued eastward onto Delaware Trail. So my guess is Kelly Canty probably talked to the man and the woman. There's a Phil Greeny or his mother or somebody that lives there. Jinx's grandmother, Jinx's son. He talked to somebody. And then he went on. Kelly Canty drives further eastward on Delaware onto the intersection of Kiowa and Delaware. Now here, Kelly Canty had a choice. Kelly Canty could have drove around the country block one way or the other way, turning left to the north side and then around Cherokee Trail and back to Robert's house, or turning right, south side Kiowa Trail, and then around Galapagos Trail and back to Robert's house that way. He could have spun around that block, or he could have gone around that block. That would have been respecting my demands, and he still would have got his goods delivered. But Kelly Canty chose otherwise. Instead of driving around the block, Kelly Canty did a turnabout and started towards me on Delaware Trail yet once again. Kelly Canty intended to cross my path yet once again. Now, there's an important distinction that's made in the clause in both the first and second degree assault, which says that sometimes during the sudden heat of passion, an assault occurs which was caused by a serious and highly provoking act, and there's no interval between the provocation and the injury sufficient for the voice of reason and humanity to be heard. That's CRS 18.3.202 and 203.2a. Both of them are 2A, 18.3.202.2A and 18.3.203.2A. Now, Kelly Canty had plenty of time to hear the voice of reason and humanity. He expressly ignored it. So like in a horror movie, just like the murderer of Tecumseh, where the scream masked bandit is just slowly but surely limping towards you with a machete, while sliding his dead and bloody left leg across the gravel, Kelly Canty is driving back my way. Slowly. I couldn't believe it. Like Jason, he should have had a Jason mask on. Kelly Canty is driving the same pace, the same style that the murder of Tecumseh did. Kelly Canty drove just like the criminal felon who murdered my dog maliciously in cold blood for no reason whatsoever. He drove just like him, identically. Except for he didn't pull into the driveway. He just stayed on the outside of Jinx's driveway. Now, Kelly Canty is getting closer and closer to me with his loud and obnoxious and old and oily flatbed tow truck, and as he's driving directly in front of the land in front of my house, he's staring at me intensely. Kelly Canty keeps on bobbing his head back and forth from me into the road and then back again, and then finally he gets out of sight. So I'm in the backyard. The house is between me and him. Once he drives out of sight, I'm standing on the ground just behind my house. I'm standing on the ground behind my house on the southeast corner behind the path where there's a hole dug in the side of the house. And as Kelly Canty had passed Tecumseh's grave, Kelly Canty gets between me and my house. He's out of my line of sight. That's when I pull my shotgun straight up into the air and fire 3 warning shots. Bang, bang, bang. I needed Kelly Canty to know that I was a bona fide Coloradan American. And I don't know who he was or what the hell he was doing. He was harassing me. He was committing crimes. It was maybe petty offenses, maybe misdemeanors. But I needed Kelly Canty to know. I needed Kelly Canty to know that I was prepared to defend myself and my loved ones, pets, family, friends, and neighbors, my person, my property, my home, by bearing arms if need be, just like Section 2, Article 13 of Colorado's Bill of Rights grants me the privilege to do. And my right to bear arms in defense of my person, property, or my home, according to Colorado law, Section 2, Article 13, can't even be called into question. You can't even question it. You can't even question it. So I was prepared to defend myself if his misdemeanor behavior turned into felonious behavior. If he was only doing what? A 2 or a 3 of harassment, but if he turned the notch up to a 6, if he did, he jerked his wheel towards me once. Was he going to drive? I've only got one little piece of barbed wire. He could have drove into my yard. And people have drove into the yard to the side with, even though there's sagebrush there. So it's not like it hadn't happened before. I have no police protection. It's a high crime neighborhood. And some people want to question my right to bear arms to defend myself, my property, my homes, my loved ones, my home front, my dogs. If his misdemeanor behavior turned into felonious behavior, he was going to have problems. I needed Kelly Canty to know that. Now, Kelly Canty is more than 325 feet away from me, and he's out of my line of sight. I'm also on the ground. I'm not standing on anything. Kelly Canty, however, is still undeterred. Kelly Canty, he's going to deliver that giant piece of metal in the back of his flatbed tow truck to Robert Pickerell no matter what. Come hell or high water, Kelly Canty is going to get the job done. He's going to make sure the mail must go through rain, sleet, or snow. Or Kelly Canty goes to deliver the piece of metal to Robert Pickerell to his house. Now, I got into my truck and I drove to Jinx's house and I yelled at the house at first because one of my major stalkers, I thought it was Jinx's son, but I think it might be that Phil Greeny. Some guy named Phil Greeny. Who are you, Phil Greeny? Why are you stalking me? Why you got a problem with me? Who the hell are you? Because at least 24 times, at least 24 times, somebody come out of that house in a truck driving around me whenever I would walk outside, whenever I was working outside, walking my dogs, when I was doing anything. Somebody from Jacqueline Mitchell's house in a truck was catching me outside. So, I was sick of the bullshit. I was tired of that household. Stop harassing me, I told that house. Some woman comes to the door, and I told her, stop harassing me. And then I drove off. And I flipped her off as I drove off. I don't know who you are. It's Jacqueline Mitchell. That's a person who was harassing me before. And then apparently she found somebody else to do her harassing for her. So I thought it was her grandmother. I drive off. I drive around the country block, east on Delaware, south on Kiowa, westward on Lobato Trail, and then northbound on Seminole. That's the way he could have gone. And that would have avoided me, avoided the whole confrontation. Then I drove on the Delaware Trail in front of Robert Pickerell's house as Kelly Canty was delivering his goods, or attempted to, by Robert's house in the middle of Robert's land. I don't know if he actually delivered the metal piece, if he actually delivered it or not, but he was trying to. He was right there in the middle of the 5 acres of Robert's land. Robert Pickerell was living there. He had his 2 dogs, two little, I'm not for sure, not Rottweilers, but boxers, like short little. I backed the tan Silverado 1500 Chevy back up to the front, back up to the road in front of Tecumseh's grave, back up to the road in front of my plot, in front of my property. So I'm parked in front of the road. I'm parked on the side of the road in front of my house, in front of my yard, in front of my 325-foot front yard. So I'm waiting to see what Kelly Canty is going to do next. He's already drove by once, jerked his wheel towards me, act like he was going to do something, laughing, having a good old time. Got a big old rig, loud, obnoxious, big old rig. What are you going to do? Drive over my fence? What are you going to do? Hit my vehicle? Try to run me over? What you going to do? Try to run over my dogs? Oh, you're associated with Robert Pickerell. Okay. Well, no wonder. No wonder you're behaving the way you're behaving. So I was waiting to see if Kelly Canty was going to drive around my house for a 3rd time. You done once, you done twice. The person that killed Tecumseh, he just did it twice. But he drove obnoxiously, which provoked my dog, and my dog had good instincts. He was protecting and serving. He was doing the police officers' jobs. And like Uvalde, the cops in Costilla County, they're not going to go in and go after the active criminal. They'll stay off to the side and pretend like they didn't know anything was going on the whole time. So Kelly Canty finishes up his extremely important delivery to Robert Pickerell. I don't know if it's the 3rd, the 2nd, the 4th. It's a 40 or 50-year-old white male. He's driving up towards me. Not Robert Pickerell, Kelly Canty. So Kelly Canty drives out of Robert Pickerell's property. He's driving up Delaware Trail. I'm up on top of the hill, and he's driving up towards the hill. He's acting like he's going to try to maybe still ram into my truck. He's still thinking that he's going to drive up to me, past me. He still wants to mess with me some way, shape, or form. But then he changes his mind, and he seems to have come to his senses, and then Kelly Canty turns left, taking off onto northbound Seminole Trail. Kelly Canty then calls the police. The police arrive an hour later. Then I'm arrested after I had told Soto Cruz that I had fired a few warning shots. I put down a money bond to get bailed out. Then I worked on steps to move away while protecting myself and my property from my stalkers. I have stalkers. I don't know who or why or what the hell. Don't have no rhyme or reason. While simultaneously having to fight the felony charge. In the 2 years I lived and resided in Costilla County, 2020 and 2021, most of 2020 and most of 2021, I didn't have any police protection. I witnessed many crimes, most of which I reported to empty husk. At least 100 to 200 911 calls. My victims' rights weren't upheld. And as a Coloradan American, I got a right to make a citizen's arrest whenever I witness any crime. So all those crimes I witnessed and the cops just took their thumbs and put it up their butts and took their heads and put it in the sand. I had a right to arrest each and every one of those people. And I have a right to defend my person, property, and home with arms if need be, and that right can't even be called into question. So what happened on September 17th, 2021? I was a private individual employing the police action of get to a would-be criminal. I was doing it lawfully, ethically, and morally in compliance with the continuum of force and the spirit of Colorado law. I was a private individual employing the police action of get. The continuum of force is presence, commands, hands, non-lethal weapons, and then lethal weapons. My presence was there. I told him to get the hell out of here, get the fuck out of here. So my presence was there. I said the command, that's the first two in the continuum of force. Now it's hands. Well, he's driving a big rig. I certainly can't drive up to him. I'm not in a vehicle at the time. I'm on foot. I'd have to run up to him. So I can't really use hands. And non-lethal weapons are tasers, pepper spray. And then lethal weapons are, your guns. Now you have different guns. You can have an AR, right? You can have like a grenade launcher. You could have like a little pistol. Even if you had a little pistol, it'd be good in the continuum of force to add a warning shot to the continuum of force. If you add a warning shot to the continuum of force, Johnny Hurley would still be alive today. The Arvada police killed Johnny Hurley when he saved the day, and he shot and killed the armed gunman that was going to kill a lot of people, but he only happened to kill one cop. Johnny Hurley saved the day. The Arvada police shot and killed Johnny Hurley. They shot and killed the hero. They didn't say a command. They didn't tell him to get down on the ground. They didn't say that they were the police. They didn't respect the continuum of force whatsoever. They went to the very final lethal force, shoot to kill. No warning shots, no non-lethal, no hands, no commands, nothing. On September 17th, 2021, I was a private individual employing the police action of get to a would-be criminal. Lawfully, ethically, morally in compliance with the continuum of force and the spirit of Colorado law. I didn't have police protection. I witnessed many crimes. I was prepared to defend myself. He was harassing, misdemeanor, petty offense maybe. But you escalate this anymore, I'm ready to defend myself. I'm a Coloradan American. You can't treat me like this. That's what happened on September 17th, 2021 in southwest Costilla County in Colorado by the Lobato Bridge.